think it's working. And yeah, just thought I'd do a fun one because this topic's been on my mind lately. So I just sort of talk through my thoughts and hopefully you have a bit of fun with me on this journey too. So yeah, there be Algebra Dragons. Just diving down the Dungeons of the Algebra Dragons rabbit hole, and I'll just share what sparked this journey, what path my journey took, and interesting things I learnt on the way. So for me, it all started a few months back. A fellow David Culp uploaded a game he wrote in Basic 65 to the Mega 65 file host called Hunt the Wampus. And yeah, this game triggered off some interesting memories for me. This character can go, up, left, or right. He gets a few clues that might be some baddies to his left or above him or to his right, and hunt down some mythical wampus creature and shoot an arrow at him. And he also made a nice YouTube video himself describing the game's origins from the 1970s, which you're welcome to watch. It comes from a type-in magazine and such. But yeah, it reminded me of a game from my childhood called Dungeon of the Algebra Dragons. And it's a game, yeah, that looked, well, was packaged a bit like this, front cover, back cover here. And the first time I saw this was in some department store with mum and dad. And but yeah, it was that game screenshot that sort of blew me away. And this was apparently the Commodore 64 version of the game. And I thought, wow, if I buy my game, I can take this home and gonna have like these vibrant colors and jumbo-sized sprites. This looks pretty exciting. So I begged my dad to buy this game. But in reality, bringing that game home, I was a little disappointed to see the game actually look like this. And but it was still a nice game, and I played it and I finished it. And yeah, but it does play very much like Hunt the Wampus, left or right or up. And I guess instead of a wampus, there's this dragon giving you algebra equations to solve. But yeah, looking back, yeah, I have this feeling of deceit that still stings me, and it made me like wonder on the back of that package, was that screenshot from the game, was that from a different platform? So I googled the game online, and the publisher Timeworks, they did make some other version of the game for the Timex Sinclair. It's not a system I was familiar with. So I thought, could the screenshot be from the Timex Sinclair version of the game? So I was curious to find that out. So yeah, that went hunt the Timex Sinclair version, and that was a problem because I couldn't find a copy of the Timex Sinclair version of the game anywhere online. There's no YouTube videos of it. There's no packages of it for sale on eBay, and made me wonder, did the game really exist for the Timex Sinclair? So I started to browse some magazines online for the Timex Sinclair to get a feel for that, and one of them was Timex Sinclair User. And it was interesting to see the short lifespan of these magazines from mid 1983 till the end of 1983, spanning only 7 issues. And there was a Sync magazine, which was, I think, a bit beyond just Timex Sinclair, maybe, but it went from 1981 to 1984. But yeah, flicking through those pages, it was a sad feeling because I don't mean that to be condescending and say C64 is better, but you just felt like there were similar parallels there. They had their own ecosystem, their own community, their own hardware enthusiasts building hardware and selling it in the commercials on their magazines, and and I guess yeah, it must have been sad for that community to sort of let go of that system after that much enthusiasm building up in these magazines for it. So yeah, I mean we experienced the same thing in the C64's dying days in 1994. So I guess it's a common feeling, I guess, for the machines we lost from that time. But yeah, this short lifespan of the computer. But anyway, there was signs of life in the Sync magazine. This volume and issue, I spotted Algebra Dragons, and it had a catalog number of 1102. In the magazine, it was like in a section describing various titles available from different publishers. You know, Timeworks offers this and that. But anyway, I noticed that 1102 number, and that was useful because in another magazine, Timex Sinclair User issue 5, that there was a catalogue of Timeworks games, and but the odd thing was that there's no mention of this 1102. There's no Dungeon of the Algebra Dragons snuck in here. It's jumping from 1101 straight to 1201. Uh, Maybe that jump relates to different product lines of the Timex Sinclair. I think there's like different sort of models of it, maybe. But yeah, there's no. I wonder what happened to it. Like, did the game sell out? There were no copies to give away anymore, or was it vaporware? It never existed. But hey, there was one thing that caught my eye is this 1203, something called Robbers of the Lost Tomb. Dungeons of the Algebra Dragons, Robbers of the Lost. Yeah, there's a bit something funny, similar there. So yeah, thinking laterally there, that was one thing I noticed in the catalog. This game with this very similar sounding name, Robbers of the Lost Tomb versus Dungeon of the Algebra Dragons, and yeah, so googling that game, I did find a front cover of that game, which looks pretty simple for the Timex Sinclair or ZX81 version, I think they call it. And I saw the C64 had a packaging of this game too, Robbers of the Lost Tomb, very glamorous. Again, we've got this very deceptive looking screenshot. I don't think the C64 is capable of graphics like that. So yeah, I was then curious to see what did this C64 Robbers game look like. And there was a YouTube video online for C64 Robbers of the Lost Tomb, and it looks like that. So again, it looks nothing like what's on the packaging. But then, thankfully, for this ZX81 Robbers, yeah, I think Timex Sinclair, there is some sort of, I think they're all different models of sort of ZX machines, but US versions or something. So I think ZX81 does equate to some era of Timex Sinclair. But yeah, looking at this game, yes, that's what it looks like on the Timex Sinclair, I imagine. And yeah, this definitely doesn't look like the packaging screenshot either, so that's some comfort to me. So that tells me, but yeah, what about, was there a ZX81 Algebra Dragons? And there's nothing online that shows me what it might have looked like, but I'm gonna guess it looked like the Robbers game too. It probably looked pretty primitive and again nothing like the back cover of the C64 packaging. So this wasn't like a Timex Sinclair screenshot at all, I don't think. But then while preparing the slides for this presentation, I noticed something like if you look really closely at these things, after a while you start to feel like, are these objects just like cut out pieces of colored cardboard and they just pasted them together? I mean, some of them you see a bit of shadowing underneath objects. And then you look at this dragon and he's got triangles on his back there. I think no machine of the time could make these beautiful triangles. Um, but this is a giveaway here. What about this edge of the cardboard here with the shadow behind it? Yeah, so uh, I think it was a bit of a deceptive thing. It's just pieces of cardboard pasted on top of one another to equate to some sort of prettier screenshot. Anyway, so I guess that's one mystery of my childhood solved. But it led to a bit of a side quest, like who wrote this Algebra Dragons game? And inside the game, if you run it, it just simply says it's written by Valueware and published by Timeworks. But yeah, while I was reading about that publisher Timeworks on their Wikipedia, I stumbled on this newspaper article, which is over there. And yes, it says, we know that two of our successful programs, Star Battle, strictly an entertainment game, and Dungeon of the Algebra Dragons, a program that combines a game with instruction in algebra, were written by a 17-year-old who quit us after 1 year in order to go to college. So that sort of gave me a clue. I'm kind of looking for some 17-year-old kid that lives in Chicago. Was it say Chicago in here? I thought it did. I can't remember where I got the hint. Chicago. Somewhere else, maybe. Anyway, that was a good clue. So yes, the article also mentioned that 17-year-old also wrote a game called Star Battle, And yeah, when I looked for the C64 Star Battle title screen, that gave some really good clues. Okay, 1983 Time Works by Vic Schiller and Paul Lasser. So I got two names out of that. But and reading online, Vic was the vice president of vice president of Time Works. So I didn't think it was him. That was the 17-year-old. So I thought maybe the 17-year-old was Paul Lasser. But then that name Paul Lasser was really familiar to me, and I thought, is that the same Paul Lasser that was later working at Commodore and working on the C65 project? And so that became, yes, Hunt the Algebra Dragons developer. So yeah, I jumped onto Paul's Facebook page and looked at the details there. I learned he went to a high school in Chicago, and yeah, so that fit the bill. Then I saw on his LinkedIn his work history mentioned. He worked at Time Works from 1982 to 1984, and I was like, bingo, I found him. And on his LinkedIn, he mentioned he worked on 4 titles while he was at Time Works, so I think I can guess 3 of them: Space Battle, Dungeon of the Algebra Dragons, and Robbers of the Lost Tomb. So I don't know what the 4th title was, so that's still a mystery to me. But now I feel like we're coming full circle here because I'm a bit of a Mega 65 person myself, and here we are in C65 territory now. So yeah, it was just a funny coincidence. I think a month ago, Dan from Dan's Digest, he recently bumped into Paul Lasser at his Mega 65 stand at one of the expos that Dan went to, and yeah, Paul confided to Dan that he actually owns a Mega 65, so that's good news for the community. And so yeah, given that, I'm very keen to see Paul one day write an Algebra Dragons 2 for the Mega 65, maybe in Basic 65. Anyway, that's it this time, just short and sweet, and a sweet little memory for me and a bit of investigative journalism.